Am I the jerk for refusing to go to the gym with a previous gym buddy? Hello everyone, I am an 18-year-old male. Here is some relevant background about me, which is required to understand the premises of this post, so please read carefully. I have mild persistent intermittent asthma, which swings between the two according to my allergist. I am also neurodiverse. I noticed that I was very sensitive, although not very expressive, and couldn't pay attention well in class but could still perform well on tests. Knowing these, I went to a psychologist who tested my IQ and executive function. My full-scale IQ on the Stanford Binet 5 came out to 125, top 5%. I also passed the Mensa admissions test and am now a member. I was also found to have ADHD. According to my psychologist, these results show giftedness in ADHD. My overexcitabilities are intellectual and emotional in nature. Now for the issue at hand. I used to go to the gym with a typical gym bro. This past week, I had a severe asthma attack while bench pressing. My breathing actually felt restricted, whereas my normal attacks typically include annoying coughing and wheezing. I asked him to grab the bar, he racked it, and I took my inhaler. After that, he said, "Bro, you should really hide your asthma attacks. If you can't breathe, just try to breathe deeper. Girls are easily turned off by asthma, and no one would ever date you with the condition." This triggered me a bit, but I brushed it off. The next day, I saw someone in tears who had been very harsh to me when I entered the gym. They worked there. Even though they were rash, I felt pain from their pain. The gym bro saw me feel hurt and said, "Dude, you should stop being so sensitive. Men have to help. Girls like men, not sensitive people. Try to show how you feel to a girl, and she will dump you faster than you can say please." This was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. Today he called me saying, "Yo bro, you wanna hit the gym?" I told him everything about how we're simply not compatible. It's not his fault. He just doesn't know how my brain or body works, and that is fine. I just can't work out with him. He said, "Dude, I really want to show you how to get jacked and pull girls." I'm sorry. I responded, "While I would love that for me, it's not a priority. I just want to get and stay healthy," and then hung up. I called my friend who is intellectually gifted, scored 1470 on the SAT, and also has asthma, and we worked out together. Am I overreacting and thus being the asshole, or should I really work out with the previous gym bro? In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. Your gym buddy seems like a dick. Since when are girls turned off by asthma? Your buddy thinks he's a seduction coach, but you were just there to do your workout. If you don't like working out with him because of his comments, don't do it. Am I the jerk for switching my child's godmother from my sibling to my best friend? I, 32-year-old female, have an upcoming christening for my infant son in 2 weeks, and I just changed his godmother from my sister to my best friend. Right after my son was born, my husband and I decided to christen him in my hometown. When I told my grandmother, she went behind my back and told my sister she was the godmother. I actually wanted my childhood friend to become the godmother. She was my first choice. My husband supported this idea 100%. I did not consider my sister for the role because she does not seem the type. She is single, somewhat carefree, somewhat reckless, and somewhat selfish. She acts very infantile for her age, 26-year-old female. Her life revolves around partying, friends, and alcohol. I have nothing against it. She's single and has no commitments, doing exactly what she's supposed to at this age. I just didn't think she was fit to be a godmother. When my grandmother told my sister making the decision for my husband and me, I was upset. I didn't stay mad for long because she is old-fashioned and wanted to keep it in the family. This was a tough position because I didn't want to disappoint my grandmother, but I also didn't want to disappoint myself by staying with the choice. Plus, she had already told my sister, and from what I heard, my sister got very excited. At that time, I didn't personally speak to my sister or my best friend, as it was too early. A few months passed, and I got to see my sister watch and be with my son a few times. She really loved him. He's a cute baby. She would change his diapers and give him bottles. The one thing I didn't like was that she would show him YouTube videos at 4 months to entertain him. I told her about it a few times and she toned it down. Overall, I started thinking that maybe it wasn't so bad for her to be a godmother. After some time, I asked her if she would, and she said yes. She didn't have the confirmation sacrament, which is needed to officially be a godmother as per Catholic law, but she said she'd take care of it. We settled on a date for the christening, and she had 6 months to give the paperwork to the church. As we were getting closer to the date, I would periodically remind her, and she'd always have the same answer. "Don't worry, I'm taking care of it." But now we are 2 weeks away. The priest is asking me for documents, and for the last month, I have been trying to reach her with no response. I've called and messaged her through social media as well. My brother, mother, and grandmother have tried talking to her, and she's giving them some vague answers. She hasn't replied to any of my messages, but I see she received them. She posts Instagram stories of her going out, so I see she's active. Now, my family is getting really upset at her behavior. It's creating a divide over the christening. It turns out my sister never took care of the confirmation sacrament and officially can't be a godmother. She could be a witness and act like a godmother, but she doesn't even respond to that. So am I the asshole for changing the godmother to my best friend? You did nothing to be ashamed of. The purpose of a godparent is to encourage their godchild to grow in faith and help them understand how to live their life in a meaningful way. Your sister's initial enthusiasm doesn't excuse her lack of follow-through. You need someone who's going to be there for your child, not someone who's too busy with their social life to even respond to messages. You gave her lots of time to get it together, and it didn't work out. Am I the jerk for calling out my ex-housemates' loud sex when they refused to pay me? I, a 22-year-old female, have just moved out from a university house share with 4 other girls, all 22-year-old females. I moved out a year earlier than intended due to enduring a year of bullying and toxicity from a group of girls I thought were my friends before moving in with them. To get into all the details would take weeks of writing, but some examples of the worst situations include: I got left behind before a night out and nobody noticed I was gone. I walked by myself to find them, and when I got there, nobody really cared nor spoke to me. I walked back by myself and didn't emerge to the kitchen to see anyone for over a day. Nobody asked if I was okay or what happened to me during this time. I didn't get included in the house Christmas dinner. I got asked to contribute towards Christmas decorations, but everyone went shopping for them without telling me. I was told that I was too loud shutting doors the one time I had a friend stay over on a Friday night. They would throw loud parties and play loud music all the time, and one girl, I'll call her Lucy, a fake name, had incredibly loud and over-the-top sex in the room below me all the time. This happened at all hours of the night when I had work. It would go on for ages, and I feel that out of respect, you can refrain from porn star moaning and screaming every night in a shared house, especially when you complain about me closing doors. This was just the cherry on top of a whole year that caused me to lose myself completely and triggered bad depression and new insecurities that I am going to struggle deeply to overcome. The reason I am writing about this is that over the whole year I never confronted anyone. I kept to myself and suffered in silence. I had an incident not long before moving out where the girls had used a fairly expensive game I bought at Urban Outfitters, costing me £30, without asking, and completely destroyed it. Once I confirmed I got my deposit back, I politely asked in the group chat for the money to replace it. Things got bitter, and they decided to bring up how they paid for bin bags and household essentials, which I did too. They said something left in a common area should be expected to get used or damaged. Lucy then brought up that I had FaceTime calls a lot because I was excluded by them, so it was my only form of interaction, and that walking down the stairs too loudly was annoying to put up with all year. This really angered me, so I brought up how loudly she had sex and how it was horrible to deal with, and that frankly, it was disgusting. I then left the group and blocked them all. I am now struggling with anxiety as this is completely out of character for me, and I'm wondering if I took it too far. I've really struggled to trust anyone in friendship since this whole situation, and this is making me question my character as I'm feeling bad about how I finally left it. Advice welcome. You did nothing to deserve criticism, and the fact that there's any doubt is crazy. Sometimes you just don't get along with certain people no matter what you do, and that's part of life. Learning to navigate relationships is a crucial experience, but also remember to move on and not dwell on it. Grab a nice kebab, enjoy your day, and focus on finding friends who treat you with the respect you deserve. Am I the jerk for calling out my parents' entitlement? I am a 23-year-old female and do not live with my parents as I moved out a few years ago. Recently, they had issues with their house property listing. They did not read the contract because it was in English and just trusted the realtor with whom they were communicating in Korean. Then the realtor ghosted them and started demanding they pay her the costs associated with the listing. They wanted me to resolve this issue. My mom texted me and asked if we should email one of the realtors we knew and ask for help. I advised against it because a real estate agent is not a legal professional, and I did not want to translate all their emails back and forth since this realtor only spoke English. I suggested I email some Korean lawyers that I knew, and she agreed. It turns out she already knew the first one who responded. She said he was bad because of things he did in the past. I was frustrated because I was trying to help, and it was not my fault they did not read the contracts. My mother then said she was glad. My 18-year-old brother wants to go into law. This made me angry because she complained while I was trying to help, and then indirectly compared my career choices to his. She regularly calls the engineering profession useless because it cannot help with hospital wait lists or provide free defense in court. I told her to ask him for help instead, to which she responded that he is just a child. He is 18, legally an adult and many years older than when I was expected to do more complicated adult tasks due to their lack of English proficiency. If a 12-year-old can translate between landlords, realtors, principals, inspectors, and others verbally and on paper, then an 18-year-old can read over a contract. While an 18-year-old is barely an adult, I believe that if I was made to do much more at a younger age, my 18-year-old brother is perfectly capable of stepping in. While we may have had no other options back in the day, we do now. I do not think I should still be the only person helping our parents when I have a fully grown younger sibling. I sent my mother a long but polite paragraph explaining that it is not fair that I was expected to do so much more in my childhood, when an 18-year-old is considered too young to read documents or look up solutions for them. This enraged her, and she has been ignoring my texts ever since. Was I really in the wrong to say all that to her, such that this treatment is well-deserved? You're not the asshole for calling out your parents' entitlement. It's not fair to expect you to always be the one to bail them out, especially when there's another capable family member who can help. You're just trying to ensure that everyone in the family shares the burden a bit more equally. Stick to your guns and don't let the guilt trip get to you. You deserve to live your own life without constantly being pulled back into theirs. Am I the jerk for staying neutral in in-laws' divorce? My brother-in-law and sister-in-law got divorced last winter after 40 years. Their daughter and her husband have a huge house and asked them to move in to help raise their granddaughter. My sister-in-law agreed, but my brother-in-law did not, as it was too close for comfort. Consequently, my sister-in-law initiated the divorce. They hid their problems well for years. My brother-in-law yelled a lot and has major ego and obsessive-compulsive disorder issues. She is usually nice but can be dismissive if you do not agree. The divorce has been contentious. My sister-in-law is one of 8 siblings. My wife is her stepsister with a different mother. My wife never knew their father, who died shortly after she was born and grew up as an only child. Her mother sheltered her from this until she was 17 when one of the 8 contacted her. Some of the 8 did not want to meet her. Not all, but many still hold a grudge and refuse to have a relationship. Because of this, when she would get together with my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, it was always separate. We were never invited to holidays like everyone else, and going to large family gatherings was awkward. My sister-in-law never confronted the 8 over their behavior, staying neutral. So even though they are stepsisters, my wife has sometimes felt like an outsider. Until now, we had a good relationship with both. A few years ago, the 8 siblings divided over caring for their ailing mother, and my sister-in-law and that side cut off contact with the other side. During the divorce, we stayed neutral. We acted as a support to both, letting my sister-in-law store her stuff at our place. We let them vent. Whatever they told us was in confidence. At one point early in the separation, my sister-in-law said, "You know, your brother-in-law will always be your brother-in-law, even though we're not together anymore." At some point, my brother-in-law rebounded with a new girlfriend but did not tell anyone. In January, my brother-in-law told us about his girlfriend. My sister-in-law called us to fish for information. My wife reluctantly confirmed, but my sister-in-law was upset we did not tell her first. Our son's communion was in the spring. My brother-in-law asked to bring his new girlfriend, and we said no, trying to protect my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law acted aloof and was not overly friendly at her granddaughter's birthday party in May. In late May, my sister-in-law texted my wife, "We have to talk." They texted back and forth in vain, trying to agree on a date. Both had vacations they were working around. My sister-in-law was cold, giving terse answers. A few days ago, my wife texted again. My sister-in-law replied back, livid and furious that my wife did not pick up the phone, did not take her side, did not tell her about the new girlfriend, and did not ask her permission to invite her ex-husband to our son's communion. She called my wife names and said, "You can have your brother-in-law and his derogatory girlfriend. Someday he will dump you, and when he does, I told you so." I replied that we stayed neutral. She said only children can stay neutral, everyone else has to take a side. I explained we see them both as our kids' aunt and uncle, but she feels betrayed as my wife is her flesh and blood and owed her allegiance. Anyway, she is cutting us off for not taking her side in the divorce. We are blindsided by this. She stayed neutral all these years with the 8 siblings. She expects an apology and is forcing us to take sides. We feel she is trying to control us. Sounds like you're better off without your sister-in-law in your lives. It's tough when family politics get complicated, but sometimes staying neutral is the best choice. Remind your wife that a family of choice is often much better than a family of origin. It might be time to focus on the positive relationships and let go of the toxic ones. Am I the jerk for not inviting a friend to my wedding? I used to have 2 friends, Kate and Rachel. Kate and I knew each other from kindergarten and were friends for decades. Rachel is her older sister, and we became friends when I was around 19 years old. We did many things together, and I considered them almost like my own sisters. Fast forward to 2018 or 2019, and it was getting more and more difficult to meet with them because they never had time. Kate moved an hour away, and even though I offered quite a few times to go there, she was never available. Rachel never wanted to meet because she was always tired from work. They played sports together but could never meet up. At that point, I was the only friend they had left because of different things, so they weren't meeting other people. I still tried to keep in touch, and whenever they said to meet, I would agree. They were late 90% of the time by over 40 minutes. Around 2020 and 2021, I was suffering really badly from depression and asked them for their support, just to meet sometimes and have fun so I could distract myself. They never could. Eventually, I met my future husband, Tom. We fell in love, and he asked me to marry him. At this point, I hadn't seen Kate in 2 years and Rachel in 1 year, so I didn't know whether to invite them or not, as we are having a small wedding. A few days ago, Kate sent me a message asking about my life. She had heard I was getting married. Kate was fishing for information but eventually told me, "I suppose if you haven't told us you were getting married, we aren't invited, lol." I just said that we were still working on the wedding list and that we didn't know because it was going to be mostly family. This was all completely true at this point. Well, things escalated from here because she started ranting about how she had put up with me for years and how dare I not tell them and invite them. I literally don't know what she meant by putting up with me, honestly. I try to be as drama-free as possible and can be quite a pushover sometimes. I just answered that I haven't seen or heard from them in years, so I didn't know if I wanted them at a small wedding with family and close friends. Apparently, that was a mistake. She called me crazy, desperate, and said that I didn't know how to be single. I had been single by choice for over 10 years, so I don't know what she was talking about. She also called me a selfish bitch and said that my future crazy husband and I should go fuck ourselves. I took screenshots and blocked her. Now her sister, Rachel, is asking me to forgive her because she got upset and talked to me the way she does to her when they fight. Obviously, I'm not inviting her now, but am I the asshole for not telling them that I was getting married and inviting them from the start? Kate obviously thinks that I am, and some people we both know are telling me I should have invited them just to keep the peace, and that it was an asshole move to not tell them. Your actions were justified. Sometimes people drift apart when they get older, and it's clear your former friends don't respect your boundaries or feelings. You were there for them when you could be, but they consistently flaked on you and offered no support when you needed it. Their reaction to your wedding news is completely over the top, and you're under no obligation to invite them, especially to a small wedding. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.